All right. Hi, my name is Gene Vincent with Cinti, and with me I have David Poole and Brian Mullaney from Crush Bank. Hey guys, how you doing?
Never better, Gene. How we doing?
I'm doing great.
All right,
So
Gene.
thank you for joining the meeting today. We're going to talk about artificial intelligence and how it relates to ITSM and ConnectWise. Before we get into that, though, just a quick introduction into our companies. My name is Gene Vincent. Like I said, I'm the CEO of Cinti. Cinti is a dedicated professional services partner for ConnectWise, and our job is to help with implementation work for ConnectWise. We are dedicated to helping people get the absolute most out of the ConnectWise product line. And because we're so dedicated in that, one thing that we really noticed is a trend in artificial intelligence and robotics process automation. And so we've decided to make a three-part web series, this being the first one, that highlights Crushbank and Sidekick and RPA. And so with that being said, I'd like to talk a little bit about, why we're so interested in Crushbank AI and why we believe that it's such an amazing value add for ConnectWise PSA specifically. So why don't you guys talk to me a little bit about what is Crushbank and how does it work with PSA?
Sure, I'll start and then I'll hand it to Dave. Both of us are former MSP owners, so a lot of understanding of the challenges and obstacles to successfully supporting uh, dozens and dozens or hundreds of end users, which correlates pretty similarly to internal IT. It's just a different kind of client, right? Equally, we are veterans of the ConnectWise orbit. So in terms of taking advantage of the platform and understanding the nuances that are available, if you have sort of the right frameworks and data in place to really drive automation through the business, you can do so. So we founded Crushbank about 5 or 6 years ago, working both in the MSP community and in the IIT community to drive artificial intelligence, automation, and efficiency into businesses. And we do so with what we call professional grade or enterprise grade AI. It's all based on IBM. It's all private data lakes, and it's all custom model driven, be it an LLM or machine learning. And we'll talk a little bit about that over the next 15, 20 minutes or so. So you really have a feel for what we think matters, which is the data. At the end of the day, the thing that gives you the ability to execute more efficiently and more precisely is access and intelligence from your own data. And everything that we've built and all the models and intelligence around it are predicated on leveraging and even enhancing the data that you have.
Right. So talking about that, on a practical level, um, we mentioned, managed service providers are using it, but Cypher and Cinti, specifically Cinti is really, really heavy in internal IT. What we have found is that a lot of companies are reaching a certain level of operational maturity, and they're looking at their managed service provider, and they're looking at what they do, and they're saying, you know what, there's a lot of this that we can do in-house. And when they do that, inevitably they start looking at the stack that the managed service provider was using, and they say, what can we do to replace that stack? So one of the first things they do is they look at what was the IT service management platform they were using. And if they see ConnectWise and they start looking into it, they start thinking, hey, this is a great platform. So they contact ConnectWise and they start transferring things into an internal IT um, sort of way of using it. And it's very different from the way an MSP will use it. So what we have found is that a lot of internal IT technicians, when they're entering in their tickets, really they're kind of fast tracking and shortcutting the information that they put into the tickets. It's very, very common. And that's why I'm so excited about artificial intelligence, is that it really helps the internal IT technicians save a lot of time in doing all the categorization and the typing and the subtyping of things that are really necessary to get, because that data is more valuable than I think a lot of them even realize until they start running the reports. About 6 months or even a year later, they start looking at all the trends, and a lot of them are very, very surprised. So one thing that we're doing at Cinti is we're helping internal IT companies build a model of type and subtypes along with, budgeting their tickets and a lot of other great benefits that you guys are doing. But really, like right off of the bat, just basically putting in sort of like a digital version of oh my gosh, the name escapes me right now. Dispatcher, sorry. Just like a digital dispatcher, somebody who comes in and just looks at all the tickets and, does all those categorizations for them, really using AI to do digital dispatching. Um, is just it's the way it's going right now. And your product does a really great job of that. It's one thing that I've been very excited about. And I think one of the reasons why it's so good at it is that you guys have such a deep relationship with ConnectWise, right? Meaning that you guys know the product better than any other AI company I've ever seen. Tell me a little bit about how did that relationship develop? How did you guys get so good in the ConnectWise product line?
So our two other partners, who ran a business out of New York for the better part of 30 years, were one of the first um, ConnectWise clients back in ConnectWise software clients back 20 something years ago. And so if it has broken, they ran into it. And what we found originally when we were building Crushbank was that there's a lot of information in ConnectWise that doesn't get properly leveraged. There's also a lot of fields in ConnectWise where you ask people, and you just touched on this, Gene, you ask people to do things that they're not very good at. I'll try to put some color to that. Engineers are good at solving problems. They're not great at documentation. They're not great, or they're not great at like some of the structured, consistent frameworks you need to put in place. They're not great at making estimates on how long this is going to take. So if you can sort of determine what they're good at and have them lean into it and hold them accountable to it, and the things that are sort of outside their job responsibility, but you need it done anyway, and automate that, and say, listen, here's the deal. You don't have to do this anymore. I'm taking care of this. I'm going to get good data out of the system by automating that. All I ask of you is detailed inputs, right? Put your notes in there well, and then I'll automate everything else. You sort of create like a reasonable agreement on how to leverage this system, how to maximize the system by having people do what they're good at. But that back to your initial question, like we knew all of these functions that were embedded inside ConnectWise that are rarely used, just from having decades of experience with ConnectWise, be they workflows, templates. There's hundreds of templates you can put in place to automate things, but you got to have some data from which to work. So it all comes back to how do we have intelligent custom data that a company can sort of build from. And then ConnectWise is as powerful a tool as there is in the service desk world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely becoming such a value add too, especially compared to a lot of the other players out there. Um, Frankly, there are just products out there that are just a service desk. And when you add in artificial intelligence into your service desk the way that we are, that's when you really start to get a lot of value. I know recently we worked on a client together who was kind of on the fence as to whether or not they were going to renew because they didn't really know if they were truly getting the value out of the product. And then once we started implementing AI, it completely turned the conversation around. Now they absolutely are going to renew and they're going to keep renewing for many years to come because we've added a level of value to the product that I think is very, very important. So
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Maybe we'll let Dave on our side talk a little bit about how we handle that process. But in short, like you sort of walk into this world with two scenarios. You have really good data and you just want to automate it and do it better. And that's great. So let's take the really good processes and the really good data you have and run it more efficiently. and just take a little bit of manual kind of screw turning out of the process. Or actually, I guess there's three. You have okay data, in which case you want to go through a process of sort of refining it and improving it. And we'll talk a little bit about how you do that. And we can do that and then automate it. Or you have none and you have no idea where to begin. And Gene, that's where your piece around that framework comes in. You've got this best practice for internal organizations, which we then treat as a custom model and roll it up from there. So you can be on either end of the spectrum. And with the partnership between Cinti and Crushbank and ConnectWise, you're going to end up with a clean, consistent, usable outline for type, subtype item, prioritization, budget, and more that allow you really to launch some of these automations, RPAs, and beyond that will take cost and inefficiency out of the business.
I love it. Dave, so yeah, walk us through a little bit on the back end, the tech side. How do you guys get so accurate?
So that is our secret sauce, right? It's doing the assessment, evaluating the data, and then building a custom model. So every single implementation gets a custom model built for the automation, right? We can enhance that model, we can fill in gaps, but it's real important, right? Building a model based off of their data. So not just sending it off to an LLM to guess, but actually leveraging the power of an LLM and ML and building a custom model. So we gather that data, we run it through our process where we analyze it, we find out where the gaps are, we fill in the gaps, build that model, deploy it, and then they're off to the races with very accurate type, subtype, and if they want to do item as well, automation. And and it takes the subjectivity out, right? You could ask five technicians how to classify a ticket and you may get five different answers. Or you may get people, like you said earlier in this conversation, that shortcut a little. We find a lot of times that only 30% of tickets even get classified, much less accurately. So just always classifying every single ticket every time it comes in and taking the subjectivity out with a very accurate custom built model on their data. And that's how we get there.
Great. So from the classification, that leads into something else that you guys are doing too, which is now the ticket has come in and it's been classified correctly by the AI. The other part of it is the interaction with the ticket. And you guys have a great way of combining all the documentation that's out there. That part I thought was really interesting too. How you're able to pull in resolutions from all sorts of things, not just from within ConnectWise, but from other sources as well. That's so powerful. Tell us a little bit about how you guys are pulling all that data in and how is it being displayed and how do the technicians use it?
Great question. So there's a lot that we do after the ticket's been opening. So yes, big thing is aggregating data from multiple data sources and then presenting it right inside a pod inside of ConnectWise. So the ability to leverage their documentation system, things that are just hidden in ConnectWise. I mean, there's a lot of time there's information in ConnectWise, you just don't know how to find it. So leveraging the power of AI to crawl and find that information and present it to the technicians, very powerful. And then also, we still are doing classification after the ticket's been open as well, because we'll even read the time entries, and if the ticket came in under one categorization, like, wait, that's not even what the ticket is. It was improperly classified because the information from the end user was wrong. I know you've never seen a technician get a wrong ticket from an end user that said it was something else, but I know it's a surprise. But that happens. And so when it reads the time entry, it says, wait a second, that wasn't an issue for this. It was an issue for this. And it will reclassify upon completion or closure, depending on how you have your ConnectWise set up. But it will do that. So you always get that proper classification so your reporting is accurate.
And I love the personally, I love the emails things that you guys are doing. So I noticed you have the ability to take an email and upload a particular email into the cloud and into your sort of bank, and that adds to the data, to the value. And so something that I came across recently was that we were doing a email chain back and forth with a vendor, and we finally came up with the resolution. Then the technician went in and he typed in what the resolution was, but he didn't give all of the data that was actually in the email thread. So there was a lot of stuff in there that came and led them to the resolution. It didn't make it into ConnectWise, but it was in there in the thread, and you guys picked up on that. So that was really great, and being able to bring in standard operating procedures from other sources. What other sources do you guys pick up on other than ConnectWise?
Well, it's sort of interesting, Gene. There's a handful of native integrations that we have that are sort of IT support specific, be they SharePoint or Confluence or Glue or Autotask, or you kind of a who's who of ServiceNow, a list of systems that you'll find in a support organization. The real key to it is having an extensible data lake framework that allows you to bring in what you need when you need it. Everyone, either now or soon, is going to end up with this data lake or data lake house framework. And to be able to have it in a simple, cost-effective manner where you can drop in anything within reason, because there's a set of APIs that allow you to pull just about anything in and work off of that. Your Outlook one is a good example. There's all sorts of other. You might have a custom application. You might be moving to ConnectWise from some custom system, and you want to have historical information from the previous custom system available. All of that finds its way into a data lake and can then be leveraged for search, for potentially automations and things along those lines down the road.
Absolutely. You know what? I completely agree. I see that happening more and more. There's a lot of companies out there that are using this technology to make their processes more efficient every single day. Well, thank you so much, guys, for being with you here today. It's great information. And, I would say stay tuned for part two. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that ConnectWise has natively, Sidekick, and RPA. So stay tuned for part two and part three. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Gene. Take care, guys.